Yes.
Good. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for hearing my story on Ghost Hollow. Yeah, I was your past Houston County surveyor for 31 years, from 1985 to 2016. And is Eric Schmidt in the audience? There he is. Well, there is the present Houston County surveyor, and his young son,
Leo.
okay, Leo.
Right.
Okay. In 2011, I was on the Southeast Minnesota Bluff Country Board, and a grant came to us to us for stories, legends, or folklore in our county. And at that time, I thought I've got a folklore story. The first time I ever heard the words Ghost Hollow, I was 11 years old, and fox hunting with hounds at the end of Storer Valley with my brother Norbert Walter and Irvin Olson and Cliff Orr, all of them now deceased. And I think, and we were on the Benny and Ira Bugby farm. I don't know, you guys must have known Ira and Benny. Yeah. They talked of Ghost Hollow as being a noisy place. They figured it might have been from the wind. They really didn't know much more than that. They also said, you know, sometimes on a perfectly calm day, the herd of cattle would come stampeding out of Ghost Hollow. My brother talked of it as being quite long, quite steep, and quite rugged. The next encounter with Ghost Hollow was in the late 1980s for a county highway project, County Highway 25 project. And one of my jobs as the surveyor is to talk to the landowners about whatever they know about their property corners or fence lines or survey markers or anything, really. So I needed to establish the section line between section 7 and 8, which somewhat parallels on the west side of Ghost Hollow. It's actually on the side hill, and as the line went north, then the hollow actually turns to the west, so that crossed the section line. The original government surveyors did the survey of the line in 1854, and I read their notes, and there was no mention of seeing a ghost. In 1988, two landowners own most of Ghost Hollow. And the one to the north is Ronald Scheck and Darren. This is a picture of them I took, it's in my book. He talked about, let's go up to the next picture. About right there. He talked about the previous family owning this part of land, Daniel Jorgensen. And he said that his son Elvin, this would have been in the early 1940s. He went to fetch the cattle in the woods in Ghost Hollow and saw a ghost. The father said that was the last time he would ever go in the woods. It's Ghost Hollow. That picture is, I'm standing at the top of the bluff, and that's a meadow to the west. And at the end of the meadow, I think there's some remnants of the Jorgensen farm, but it's all abandoned. And then if you go up a little bit farther, the picture. Then what I did was I turned around and I took a picture into Ghost Hollow. And that's a good example of Ghost Hollow. The landowner in the south half was Lester Beckman. And after he told me about the land corners, he told me this fantastic story of Ghost Hollow and how, you could go to the next picture, and how Store Valley Road was on the south side of Ghost Hollow, and the east side, the road used to go all the way through up to County 25. So I think you can see, I'm on County 25 taking a picture of Store Valley Road going west, and I think you can kind of see the what do you call it, a dugway remains. And then it's also on the south side of Loretto Cemetery, which we can show that now. Okay, Lester told me that County 25 and Southridge Road were originally a territorial road between St. Paul and Dubuque, Iowa. I am pretty much quoting Lester now about a horse that had been stolen, and a group formed to investigate what happened. Someone said that a highwayman staying in the Loretta house or the nearby barn was seen with the horse. The group eventually found the highwayman, and with or without a horse, he did not know. They took him down to Ghost Hollow, the now Ghost Hollow, and saying they had the right to hang a horse thief. The highwayman was tried, convicted, and hung. And to this day, his spirit still haunts Ghost Hollow. He never told me when the story took place, but my guess is that it was the time of the early settlers, wagon trains moving west, stagecoaches, and many highwaymen. Okay, next picture. Okay, this reminds me of a grave marker in the Loretto Cemetery. At the base of this tree is a concrete marker that says, "In memory of Florence Carpenter, May 18, 1876, June 18, 1876. So she lived a month. She was one of the first to be buried in this cemetery. This tree was planted over her by her parents, who were just moving through. And I was just up there about a week ago, and that tree is still there, and it is gigantic. Just to the north of the cemetery, I guess we'll go with the next picture. Is a farm site with a 2-story house, also called the Loretta House, with dining, and rooms for travelers from 3 different stagecoach lines. I think the one line would have been to St. Paul, one line to Dubuque, and I think there actually was a 3rd line that went to La Crosse. And there was, of course, to and from. Information on the house and the stage lines from, I think, a great lady was Anita Palmquist. She really was a very smart lady. And another interesting story from Anita was either her grandmother or her great-grandmother worked at the Loretta House. And it was during the Civil War. And there were some Union troops who were coming through, and they stopped for dinner. And it turned out that the people that owned the Loretta House at the time were actually Confederate sympathizers. So they didn't want to serve them. And she said her mother, her grandmother, her great-grandmother told her, the captain finally got up, walked to the kitchen, drew his sword, and said, either you're gonna feed us or I'm gonna run this through the cook. So she thought, needless to say, they probably got fed. On April 17th, 1989, my assistant county surveyor, Al Beeson, and I traversed to the area of the Quarter Corner for sections 7 and 8, which had been set in February of 1854. We found no original post or marked bearing trees. We did set a county monument at an ancient or an old fence corner that had been given testimony to. This location was in the woods on the east facing slope, overlooking the heart of Ghost Hollow. I remember looking southeast into the hollow and thinking, ghost or no ghost, the hollow sure looks dense and unwelcoming. So when I was putting this together, I kind of was practicing, and Teresa said, Mike, maybe I'd say you're a little bit over embellishing. So, in October of 2011, that's when I wrote the book, to ensure that the information is credible to the public, I called everyone that was still alive that could give some verifying my story. Again, I contacted Ronald Scheck, and he instantly told me there was a published story about it. And this article is also, it's called A Night in Ghost Hollow by Ken Pritchard from October 29th of 1981 in the Houston Signal. And the complete story is in my book. I was able to contact Ken, and he said that it was one of his 10 most favorite experiences as a journalist. He also wrote an article, again, the same article, again in October of 1987 in the Baraboo News Republic. Okay, the next picture. Okay, this is landowner Dan Gladden, or Gavin. He told me